What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to do another sort of in-season review, as today we take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm afraid I forgot to talk about them in relation to doing it previously, but with a lot of the free agency news taking priority, we kind of put this series on hold, which I expected to be the case, to be fair, but things are getting a little bit quieter. I mean, other than maybe DeAndre Ayton going to the Wizards, there's not really too much to talk about, and I feel like I'm going to wait till Rui Hachimura leaves the Lakers to discuss that situation. So let's talk about it in-season review. Let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. To be fair, instantly their team is not the same as they were last season, but at the same time we should be talking about last season, what they managed to do in the NBA draft, since we know for a fact now that the draft is kind of over and done with, as well as looking at what they can look like in next season as well. So let's talk about it in this video. Before we get any further, if you do like the video, feel free to like and subscribe if you are new, and let me know what you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves and just the overall things that they have done, and whether or not you think that will make big implications on what's going to happen to them next season. They've made some big moves, all-in sort of moves, and I respect the boldness of those moves, but will it be enough to go ahead and secure an NBA championship? Because last season, they finished in the 6th seed. To be fair, the Western Conference has always been a very stacked Western Conference, and they definitely did better in the playoffs than where the standings would have suggested. But at the same time, they finished 6th. So I think if you're looking at a team that finishes 6th in the Western Conference, you're not looking at a championship team by any stretch of the imagination. But in saying that, there was a lot of controversy to their playoff run. Let's start off with the fact that they won 49, and there was 49-33 on their season. They had a 5-5 last 10 games in the regular season. They moved into the playoffs. They outperformed the Denver Nuggets with injuries to Anthony Edwards, DiVincenzo, and a bunch of other guys as well, coming in hurt, but playing for the team. It was really, really important work that the Minnesota Timberwolves did. They achieved something that they should always be proud of, but at the same time, they should also know is not enough if they want to secure a championship. They beat the 3rd seeded Denver Nuggets, and they did it comfortably. Look, those two teams have had quite an interesting bout for the last several years, but in the last 2 series that they faced each other, it was Minnesota walking away victorious, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there, but I don't think I am. And especially this year with Ayo Dosunmu dropping 43 points, and that ended up getting him a pretty significant contract with Minnesota, you can tell why that was a big accomplishment, and they overachieved for what a 6th seed probably would do normally. Beating a 3rd seeded team in a situation where they had injuries is no easy feat. But unfortunately, it didn't really carry over to any place else, as they just did not, they could not win in the second round. I'm pretty sure in the second round they faced the San Antonio Spurs. I think they got 1 game against the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken, but it just wasn't close. You could tell that the difference between the Spurs and the Thunder and everybody else in the West is pretty significant. With the OKC Thunder sweeping through the playoffs until the Spurs, and the Spurs dealing with a lot of their teams comfortably until the Thunder. Teams need to work. It's as simple as that. Teams need to put in the work, and I guess that's why the Minnesota Timberwolves went all in this offseason. And I think they need to do that. Anthony Edwards is a young player, but clearly a franchise player. He's one of those people that is the face of the NBA, has the potential to be that, and you don't get rid of those guys easily. You need to build around them. And that's sometimes a team's failure, is not being able to build around superstars. And I think the Minnesota Timberwolves right now are in that process of trying things, and we'll see whether or not it succeeds or fails. They went all in for Rudy Gobert. They went all in for Julius Randle. They've now gone all in for LaMelo Ball. And these are changes that I think you need to make if you want to build around an Anthony Edwards. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know if that's going to be successful. So until they either break that team apart, or unless they win a championship, that's when we're going to find out. But they're in that process now of trying to make a team around Anthony Edwards, trying to build something that could be sustainable and championship worthy. And I have complete respect for an organization who, let's be honest, hasn't had that much success in their time, but is desperate for success. There are teams that stay rebuilding forever. In fact, Charlotte is one of those teams I could put in that conversation. No matter how talented their players are, they will always be rebuilding, because I don't think they make moves deserving of contending. The Sacramento Kings is another example of that. The one time they had a solid team that made the playoffs, where are they now? At the bottom of the barrel again. Some teams deserve to be rebuilding forever because of the decisions that they make. You know, competing isn't for everybody. Some people just don't have what it takes to compete, or some teams, I should say, don't have what it takes to compete. So making these sort of moves to be competitive for a long time is something I do respect with Minnesota, because they could be fallen into that same category of not being able to compete. They could give up and trade Anthony Edwards and give up on that entire team and rebuild again, but they don't want to do that. And that's what I respect about Minnesota. I respect heavily about them. They are not about rebuilding for the next 10 years. Why rebuild for the next 10 years when you can compete for the next 10 years? And even if you fail 9 out of the 10 times, the fact that you're in it, it only takes one time to win a championship. It takes one time to bring history to your team. And you got to be in it to win it. So I respect Minnesota. They're not worried about the next 10 years. They're worried about their future. They're worried about their present. They're worried about competing now. And bringing in LaMelo Ball with Anthony Edwards, if that pairing works well, that is a pairing for the next 5 years. So I respect Minnesota heavily for the moves that they have made. It's big. It's definitely not future preserving. But if it works out, I mean, risks like this, I believe should work out. I hope do work out. If you know what I mean. They also had things in the NBA draft. I'm going to have to search up I can't remember what they did in the NBA draft. So bear with me here as we figure that out. But yeah, like, again, to me, their draft is not a big priority. I kind of feel like they did nothing in this draft, to be honest. What did the Minnesota Timberwolves do in the NBA drafts? We're going to figure that out right now. We're going to search it up, see what happens. Here's what it says. They were fairly active in the 2026 draft. I like Joshua Jefferson. I didn't know he was the 28th pick in the NBA draft, but was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Dang, that's tough. Selected Isaiah Evans. I really like him as well. A first-round talent who slipped into the second round. They held the 59th pick, using it to add another depth prospect as they continue to reshape the roster. Okay, so I think Isaiah Evans is their big get in the NBA draft. Now, I have a Bulls channel, and I talked about Isaiah Evans on that Bulls channel because I really liked what he was able to bring to the table. Assuming he's still in Minnesota right now. Yes, he's playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're getting someone that's really good off the ball. Solid defensively, but is so good off the ball. There were certain plays where it almost felt like I was watching a JJ Redick or a Klay Thompson. His ability to slip screens and go to the pockets of three, just the overall nature of his movement is something that I think is going to be very, very impactful at the NBA level. I do believe he was a first-round talent. In my opinion, if the Bulls selected him at 15, it's one of those situations where I wouldn't be mad, but I would also question it at the same time. I really liked Isaiah Evans at the time. He slipped when I first talked about him. He was meant to be a lottery prospect when I talked about him. But yeah, he fell. And he fell all the way to the second round, which is crazy. But that's a really good get. That's a very good get for Minnesota. And especially for a team that doesn't need more ball handlers on their team, having someone like that fits the need of your team as a shooter, fantastic get, I would say. And fits the Minnesota Timberwolves team to a T. So that's good stuff. Overall, I should mention they traded Julius Randle. They traded him to Brooklyn. They traded Naz Reid to the Charlotte Hornets. So those are two big men that they let go of. So I would say the improvements need to probably be in the big man's apartment, getting more depth in the power forward and center positions. I think is ideal for the Minnesota Timberwolves. My apologies. But I guess that's sort of something they can address in this free agency, maybe in terms of two-way contracts, everything in between. We'll see how it goes there. But to sum it up, I think they get a pretty solid 7.5 out of 10 for their season. Again, they did really good business with getting Ayo in their team. They did really good business in terms of what they've done this offseason. They've done really good results-wise, getting past the first round as a 6th seed and beating a Denver team that's so strong. And there's just so much to respect about what Minnesota did this year. But I think we're at that stage with Minnesota where, yes, they can pull off some very impressive victories. They clearly have a very unique competitive spirit about them. But to get to the next level, they need to take risks. And that's what they've done. So I don't know if that's going to work out or not, but we will find out. LaMelo Ball is a big risk. Trading Naz Reid, who's one of the best sixth man sort of guys, is a big risk. I think trading Julius Randle made sense, but now you have not a lot of depth in that area. That's a big risk. So I can't wait to see how that kind of takes fold, you know? It should be quite an interesting turn of events. And fair play to Minnesota for at least going for it. Again, some teams stay rebuilding forever because they never truly go for it. And Minnesota's not taking that risk. They're not taking that chance. They're going for it, and I respect it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.